As a child, I hated building Lego. A bizarre notion, I know, but before all of the Lego enthusiasts start detesting every fiber of my being, I must explain that, at that time, I had, quite literally, the patience of a 3-year-old. There I would sit, staring blankly at a 10-page instruction manual, failing to understand how I was meant to transform little, lifeless blocks into an awe-inspiring aeroplane. Mum would often say, maybe if you actually opened the instruction manual, you might just learn something. But 3-year-old me would much rather leave that job to Dad and come back in the evening to play with it once the hard work was over. Unfortunately, my rocky relationship with instruction manuals has never quite left me. Progressing through school, I, along with many of you, have been inextricably bounded by these thick, unbelievably heavy abominations called textbooks. Now, for those of you who haven't had the misfortune of encountering one of these, they're essentially dementors, sucking the life and soul out of unsuspecting students. But being the responsible kid that I am, I'd spend hours and hours late at night, laboring over lines of text, only to discover that, moments later, these concepts and facts would magically disappear. I just couldn't seem to build the aeroplane. That is, until a couple of years ago, when I stumbled across something that radically changed the way I approached learning. An idea that isn't bound by the classroom. Its relevance extends to all areas of knowledge for all types of people. But before I reveal this tool and explain why it's so effective, we have to understand a couple of things about learning. Learning, at its most basic form, is the acquisition of knowledge. It's the internalizing of concepts, facts, and ideas. It's the little child meticulously assembling Lego blocks, slowly but surely, getting closer to that aha moment, where all of the pieces come together to form an aeroplane. Now, learning takes place at various scales, from the innocuous to the groundbreaking. But since we can't anticipate unexpected discoveries, I'll be taking a closer look into deliberate learning and posit how you can make the most out of your learning time. Often what we see in schools today is structure a little bit like this, where we have an educator, the expert, who tries to impart knowledge to their students. Now, whether it be through active questioning or vivid storytelling, the best educators captivate, inspire, and tap into a deep-seated curiosity that is intrinsic to us all. Because the more we are engaged, the more easily we learn. But as powerful as this whole process is, I believe that there is one key element that many people often overlook. In our pursuit to create these engaging environments for our learners, we often neglect one fundamental point. Of all the people in a classroom, more often than not, the one most engaged with material is not a learner. It is the educator. And herein lies my overarching argument. The best way to learn is to teach. I came about this discovery quite serendipitously when a friend of mine asked me to help explain a concept we were learning in class. It was a hard topic, and to be completely honest, I hadn't come to grips with all of its complexity and nuance. But I decided to help explain the bits and pieces I did understand, hoping I'd be able to help him out in some way or another. Similar to building a Lego aeroplane, I tried to explain how small blocks of information came together, piece by piece, to eventually lead to the final product, the complex idea. But inevitably, I'd reach a stage where I had no idea what came next, or I didn't quite understand how one piece of information fit in with another. These confrontations with the unknown occurred frequently, but fret not, we had our trusty textbook to guide us along the way. The end product was we'd both walked away with a complete understanding of a complex topic that we'd, quite frankly, been clueless about. This fascinated me. Here I was, burying my head in a pile of books, when all I had to do was to teach someone. Through the process of teaching, I was able to quickly identify gaps in my knowledge, fill those gaps, and cement my understanding. Because when we teach, we engage. When we engage, we learn. Through the process of teaching, the educator gains another layer of engagement through the physical communication of ideas. This is why the Socratic method and the Feynman technique are such effective learning tools. They draw you into the complexity of the subject matter and captivate you at a deeper level. When we teach, we are forced to break down a complex idea, riddled with jargon and nuance, into small blocks of information. We then reconstruct this idea bit by bit to eventually lead to the complexity we started off with. Now, this is by no means an easy feat, but what it does is it stretches you to the limits of your understanding. The end product is a firm grasp of a complex topic in the language we understand best, our own words. This is why I believe teaching is one of the most effective forms of learning. But in the scheme of thinking beyond the future, why is this idea important to us? How do we make this more than just a tool that students use to ace their exams? We live in a world where learning is the cornerstone to our development as a species. We have platforms to receive news from seasoned articulators. We have institutions to learn from the finest experts and specialists in their field. We have conventions like TED to hear from captivating orators who impart truly breathtaking ideas. Our society has immeasurably benefited from the way knowledge has been tailored for mass consumption. It's efficient and cost-effective, allowing one educator to reach out to a large population of learners. You can represent this in a pyramid-like model, where you have a group of people at the top who disseminate information to the rest of us. Now, ideally, we'd all be able to soak up this information like a sponge. But the reality is, for many of us, it can often be difficult to engage with learning. As a result, this model isn't always effective at facilitating a deep understanding. So, what if we decided to bring about a radical change to the way we approached learning? What if we decided to take this pyramid and mold it into a sphere, where we are all interconnected in how we teach and how we learn? Of course, you're all thinking, we already do this. Every day, we help and teach other people various things. I transfer my strengths onto you, while you transfer yours to me. Look no further than the work office, the local park, or even the internet. This model of mutual teaching and learning is everywhere. But what if we decided to expand the boundaries of what we decided to teach? What if we decided to engage in teaching not only in things we were proficient in, but things we were in the process of learning? Now, I'm not suggesting that my 3-year-old self should go anywhere near the realms of teaching others how to build Lego airplanes. But I certainly believe there is more that can be done with giving learners the opportunity and confidence to take their newfound skills and put them into practice. What if we said, I'm hopeless at maths, but I'm going to teach someone trigonometry anyways? It's not going to be easy, that's for sure. But through this process, I'll be able to quickly identify gaps in my knowledge, fill those gaps, and eventually lead to a consolidated understanding of a complex topic. Because when we teach, we engage. When we engage, we learn. Now, at first, I had my doubts. Who would want to learn from me? I'm not a teacher. I'm not an expert. I'm just a teenager who doesn't really know what he's talking about. But I ignored myself, and I did it anyway. This year, I rolled out a website at our school on which students could volunteer to sign up to teach a subject they were currently learning. Their fellow peers could then sign up to attend these sessions to learn from their fellow student educators, completely free of charge. The uptake astounded me. Across the school campus, before and after school, I saw students teaching other students. Students saw their grades leap after regular enrollment in the program. Others forged newfound friendships across the school campus. And everyone managed to find that little spark of curiosity that allowed them to engage with what was being taught. I envisage a world where one of our primary methods of learning is to teach other people. A culture in which we actively seek opportunities to share knowledge, not just to help other people, but to reconsolidate these ideas for ourselves. Paired with technology, the possibilities are limitless. Teaching and learning can be conducted online, where 7 billion people around the world are connected by this philosophy. Establishing basic technological infrastructure may very well be the key to breaking the poverty cycle. In a matter of seconds, a student in Singapore could reach out to someone in rural sub-Saharan Africa, where access to education may be a luxury only enjoyed by a small minority. This model of a sphere, interconnected by the principles of teaching and learning, has the potential to bring about remarkable change to the lives of many. Because through this process, not only will we be able to learn from each other, we'll be able to learn from our own teaching. Because when we teach, we engage. When we engage, we learn. Thank you.